Nissan has finally unveiled the new Murano for 2025. It's been a decade since the last model came out, so it's about time that they actually stepped it up here and included the new Murano in their entirely new lineup for Nissan. They're trying to refresh every single model here, so I think it looks pretty good. We're going to have a look at this design in detail from front, side, and rear in just a minute in Photoshop and talk about the graphic features. Some very trendy features made it here, some changes that I like, some that I'm not so sure about. More on that in just a minute. So here we have it, the brand new Nissan Murano for 2025, looking very tight in the front end. Before we jump into Photoshop, let's have a look at the spec and tech here from this article from Car and Driver. 2025 Nissan Murano adopts a smooth look and gets rid of the CVT. Well done, Nissan. Well done. That is a good idea. I can't stand CVTs. It doesn't matter what car it is. So I'm just glad that they got rid of that. But they also got rid of the V6, even though we have the same fuel economy here with the new 4-cylinder. The midsize two-row SUV getting its first redesign in a decade. You have a turbo 2-liter inline 4 now, connected instead of the CVT, of course, to this 9-speed automatic transmission. Replaced the previous V6 and CVT combo. So you have SV, the trim levels SV, SL, pre-platinum trims are offered, with the top model offering massaging seats for the front and a head-up display. So this is starting to become a pretty luxurious small little SUV right now if you have massaging seats in a Nissan Murano. It was last new for the 2015 model year, and it has only received minimal updates since then. So as I said, it's about time that Nissan actually stepped it up here and refreshed the Murano. It still fits between the compact Rogue and the 3-row Pathfinder. It has a new shape, is smooth and rounded with interesting details, such as slim headlights and linear daytime running lights integrated into the horizontal lines of the grille. Which is something that we've seen on bigger SUVs from Nissan in recent times as well. There is also an LED taillight bar that runs the entire width of the rear end. So that is where the trend's starting to come in. I mean, I don't know. It feels like every single car has an LED light bar in the rear end. But in this case, I think it looks pretty good. I mean, it suits the overall styling for this car to have an LED bar in the back. But it also would suit it to not have it. And Nissan says it hid the exhaust tips and the rear wiper for a sleeker look. Now, I want to hide the rear wiper. That's a good idea. I don't want to hide the exhaust tips, though. I think this is sort of a sporty looking SUV. So in this case, I would like to still have the exhaust pipes visible here, dual exhaust pipes, in each corner of the lower section of the rear end. So you have 241 horsepower and 261 pound-feet of torque. Front-wheel drive is standard on the base SV trim level. All-wheel drive is optional on the SV, but standard on the SL and Platinum models. This is the same setup that you find in the 2025 Infiniti QX60, the 3-row luxury SUV, and it's powered that model to 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds. However, the Murano is a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, so this will probably be around 7.2, 7.3 seconds, 0 to 60. We don't have the official numbers just yet. You get 23 mpg combined for both the front-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive versions, which is pretty interesting. Usually the all-wheel drive drops by 1 or 2 mpgs estimates, but here we have the same 23 mpg for both the front-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive, and that is in fact the same as the old V6. So not always switching to a smaller displacement engine, here in this case a 4-cylinder instead of the V6, not always does that mean better fuel economy. So standard features on the SV include a power lift gate, power adjustable heated front seats, leatherette upholstery, lots of driver assistance features, a digital gauge cluster, a 12.3-inch infotainment screen, touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Options include panoramic sunroof, Google built-in apps. You can also option it with a 360-degree camera and a Bose audio system, and head-up display, massaging front seats, and heated rear seats as well. The 2025 Murano will start a bit higher than the outgoing model, the pricing for it, which started at just over $40,000 for the front-wheel drive SV and up to $49,840 for the all-wheel drive Platinum. And in this case, every single SUV, I always want to have it be all-wheel drive. It just makes more sense to me. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here and let's have a look at this pretty beautiful looking design. There's just a couple of things here that we need to talk about. So starting with the front end, here we have the entire collage here, front, side, rear, interior. Starting with the front end design, as you can see, we have a very clear Nissan face here. The V-Motion grille, I think they just decided to make those into lights instead. You can see these lights right here going LEDs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 LEDs in the front end grille. I like that they have a connection to the physical parts of the grille here, so if we continue these lines in the grille, you can see that they connect right into the LEDs on the sides. Looking very beautiful. New Nissan logo in the front end. We don't have bumper headlights in this case, thankfully. I'm kind of over it now because BMW kind of ruined it for me with the bumper headlights. The main headlights now sit up here. Very slim headlights. And we then also have this bar in the middle that is body colored. And this is one piece that I think... This piece right here is what I'm talking about. This looks maybe a little too static for me. Just have a bar like that in the middle of the grille, because then we have a Ferrari-esque 12 cylindri here, F80 black bar in the top of the grille in between the headlights. It's a very interesting design, and I do think the designers actually had a lot of fun designing this car because it looks unique and it looks very much Nissan to me. I do like this line. You can see how clean the line is up top. The lines are in the hood here. We only have one single line that goes into the grille and has some sort of connection to this piece of the grille right here, because these bars curves in that specific area. In the lower section, we have an opening here, a secondary grille at the very low section here, and this carved out portion, this chamfer going all the way, framing the side of the front end face. I think overall it looks pretty good, but the Nissan logo feels a little misplaced here. I think it sits too low. I just want to move it up and maybe even have this entire grille here be completely blacked out and not have this bar in the middle. I'm not sure. That's something that I might have to experiment with and do a little redesign of on the Sketch Monkey channel. Now, looking at the side view here, what I love about the side view is that this looks like a coupe SUV, but it doesn't have the front heaviness to it. And that the reason why it looks like a coupe SUV, but it's not, is because this key line right here. Similar, philosophy that we have in the Nissan Z. Just have a very pronounced graphics for the greenhouse line that goes here. Now, what this does is, for the second row, this is going to intrude a little bit on the window here. So it's going to feel maybe a little claustrophobic in there, but I'm totally fine with that. I always go for better looking, aesthetics and sacrifice a bit of functionality, as long as it doesn't, have an impact on safety and stuff like that. This just has impact on the visibility from the rear seats, but it looks so much better to have these type of lines. This line right here, and then you have this upswing in the lower section, creating this cross section in the rear end. You can see that the roof here is blacked out, so this carves out a lot of mass and makes it look very sporty and super light in the rear end. We also have more lines from the Nissan Z here. For example, this line goes upwards from a lower section in the rear end, going upwards towards the front, and then has a connection in this area here. If we draw this line out, you can see that it's one continuous line going through the front axle, looking pretty cool. Normally, what this line does is it goes the other way, so it goes up like this and then dips right here in the back section, but they inverted that here. We have the same line here as we have again on the Z, with this sloping line going downwards here into the main headlights. We have some very nice line flow in this car. To me, the more I look at this car, the more I feel like this is more of the designs that I want to see. You can kind of feel that the designers had fun with this. And this doesn't feel like it was designed straight in a 3D software. It actually feels like someone had a pen and paper and started to sketch this out, and that is exactly what I want to see with car designs. In the rear, we have very sharp taillights here cutting into this area, and if we draw this line out, do we have any sort of connection to what's going on here in the middle? Not really, but that's totally fine. We also have this chamfer that we talked about in the front end coming back here in the rear. The wheel designs, not a fan of these wheels. They look way too complex for me. I would probably switch these out to something more simple and something that shows the brake disc behind it a little bit more. But these are the type of wheels that we get these days. Airflow efficient aerodynamic wheels that covers up most of the brake disc behind it. I always like to see the disc behind it. I just think it looks better. and also have a more simple design like than this. This is extremely complex. Maybe took a couple of weeks for a designer to design all the small little features that we have going on in these wheels. Now, last but not least, before we look at the interior, the rear end. Now, look at this rear end, and I think this looks so good because this line flows nicely into and dips right in to the rear end here, into the taillight, and of course, the light bar that we have in the rear end. The rear end is definitely my favorite view for this because I think this looks the placement of the graphics just feel more natural to me than the placements that we have in the front end. Even though it's a very unique looking front end, I'm glad that Nissan decided to do something a little bit different. But in the rear, what I want to do here is just have a couple of exhaust pipes down here still visible in the rear, even though they did a good job hiding. As you can see, we don't have a wiper here sticking out like a very ugly little feature down here. Instead, they hid it underneath here, so when it falls down, it just falls down like this and then goes back into hiding under here, so you can't see it when it's not in use, making for a very clean looking rear end. Some more styling features here. Beautiful line going down here, similar to what we have in the front end, of course, and we also have a nice chamfer for the lower section and the bumper part of the car down here with this black graphic, looking very clean. Murano spelled out in the middle as well, to not mistake this for anything else than what it is. Now, last but not least, the interior. Now, this is very much inspired by the Aria. This feels like an Aria interior to me, specifically with these very Nissan-like touch tactile buttons. So they're not really buttons. When you click this, it feels like the entire piece, this entire piece is clicking. When you adjust the temperature here or the fan speed or whatever you want to change here. It's a very unique feeling. It gives a subtle little click to it when you're pressing these buttons, but at least they are sort of physical buttons for the climate control settings. But you also have those right here in the infotainment screen, so I guess you have the choice of either switching these up or adjusting the temp and the climate in the infotainment screen up here 12.3 inches, or you can do that by clicking these buttons down here. Cup holders here, gear selector in a horizontal row here, something that you rarely see. Looks like you have the drive modes right next to it, a couple of USBs as well. Start button located here. The overall integration of this, even though we have a fully digital gauge cluster, it looks like we have a nice housing for it though. But I'm not sure if the housing feels like it's, designed for the gauge cluster itself. It looks like it just has a cap on top of it, and then this area is not covered by the housing. Instead, it just stops right here, and I would like to see the housing kind of melt into the dash, something like this, and have a beautiful curvature going above it. But this is what we get for the new Nissan Murano. It's not a bad looking interior at all. It's very simplistic. I like the flow design that we have going on here. Horizontal lines going all over and different materials as well. Looking pretty upscale for a Nissan Murano. Not the biggest fan of the design of the steering wheel. This looks like an old Citroen wheel with two spokes, simple like this. But you do have some physical buttons on each side here, with of course the new Nissan logo in the middle. So overall, I think Nissan is doing a great job updating the entire lineup, and it started with the Nissan Z. And after that, they kind of felt like they had to refresh the entire lineup, and the Murano is way overdue since it's been 10 years since they came out with the previous Murano as a new model in 2015. And this is going to be, cars to me has always been, you see them out on the roads, and as I said before in my previous reviews on the Sketch Monkey, cars to me are pieces of art on wheels, and you want to have them be, a splash of art in your everyday life. And I think Nissan has done a great job with the Murano because this feels special and it feels unique in its styling, specifically in the front end, even though the graphic positions are a little bit strange. But I like that. I like that they decided to go and do something different and experiment with where they want to take Nissan and their design identity moving forward.